My name is John. I'm one of the account managers at Posturite, and thank you for joining us on this webinar. I think this is one of our sort of most hotly requested webinars, really. I think at Posturite, it's easy for us to sort of forget with the variety of things that we do, where we started and what we're perhaps best known for, which is providing the best solutions for people with issues in the workplace. So what we wanted to do today was a good old-fashioned show and tell about some of the latest products with a particular focus around home working. And if you have seen me on a webinar previously with us, you'll be pleased to know that I won't be doing too much of the talking today, but a quick couple of bits of housekeeping before we move into the main content. Firstly, if you do have any questions today, feel free to drop those into the Q&A section that you can see. I can see a question or two coming in already, which is fantastic. And also, if you see somebody's question that's been suggested that you like, please do vote for those or like that question, because that will pop it to the top, and we'll try and cover those off at the end of the webinar today. And a quick reminder that our next webinar, the upcoming webinar, will be around dyslexia, which is taking place on the 24th of September. There will be information available on the website, and we'll also be popping emails out in the coming days. So keep an eye on that one. But at this point, what I would like to do is hand over to Vicky. Vicky is our product specialist. If you've spoken to our DSE advice team or live chat with any product questions, you've probably spoken to Vicky. My clients are constantly telling me how great Vicky is. So she will be the best person to take us through these products. We're going to break down the content into different sections. And as I say, throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop us some questions, which we will cover at the end. If we can move on to the next slide, please. And then I will hand over to Vicky.
Brilliant. Thanks, John, and good morning, everybody. Just wanted to run through some of our most popular bits of kit in each of these sections. So we're going to start with looking at sit-stand platforms. Just to clarify, if anybody's unsure, a sit-stand platform is something that you would place on your existing desk to be able to build in some sit-stand working options, so you can stand for a period of time and then sit for a period of time without having to replace all of the furniture that you have. So I'll run through our most popular ones. If we move on to the next slide, please. So the Deskrite 100E is a new version, an electronic version of our most popular Deskrite 100, which was a manual platform. Now, manual platforms do have some lift assistance, which is similar to kind of like the gas lift on a chair, but it does still require some manual effort. And so we really wanted to bring something that would be able to be used a little bit more easily if you had heavier equipment, for example, or had any disabilities or difficulty in being able to raise and lower the platform too. So the Deskrite 100E is an electronic platform that raises and lowers electronically, and you can pop your screens on here with a monitor arm as well. It's got great options for different monitor arms, and the two-tier system, you can pop your laptop or your screens on the top, and then the keyboard and mouse on the lower tray. So everything's at the right height for you and moves up all as one between the two. You can note here we've got a little black symbol, a little green symbol. That's to note that they're both on either our home site and or our business site as well. So some of these are just kind of more geared towards home workers, but obviously can be used anywhere as well. If we move on to the next slide, please. The Oploft is a fantastic bit of kit because it is so lightweight. The actual whole thing only weighs about 12 kilos. So as long as you have that capability to lift that amount of weight, you can move it easily between different locations. If you're working in different areas in your house, for example, you want a bit of a change of scenery, it's really easy to move the Oploft around as well. It is better designed for a single monitor. You can use a dual monitor arm with this as well. It has to be the specific Oploft monitor arms, just due to how the Oploft flattens down completely. You can't kind of clamp a standard monitor arm onto the back there. So you do need to use the Oploft arms, but there is that opportunity if you wanted to have two monitors on it. But just bear in mind then you are lifting a little bit more weight. There is lift assistance with the Oploft, but it is designed more for that kind of single screen. Ideal weight capacity is about 8 kilos, but it can go up to 12 as needed. And it folds down completely flat. So the white surface at the top there goes right down to the black legs down at the bottom, and it folds completely flat, which is great if you're working, for example, from your dining table and you really want to reclaim that space at the end of the day. It's so simple to just kind of pop it out of the way, and then kind of out of sight, out of mind, you can forget all about it. Next slide, please. The stand friend is a really great bit of kit if you are really, really cramped on your space. So the whole thing, so from the front to the back there, is only 40 centimeters, and it is able to be adjusted by moving the shelves physically. So this is a little bit more effort rather than the other ones that have the lift assistance to do, but you can easily use this and kind of move between sitting and standing. I do actually have one here. And the keyboard tray is much higher than it would be, obviously, if you were using it, but it's just so that I can fit it in the frame here. So you can slot your laptop into the top shelf, second shelf for the keyboard and the mouse, and you can move those physically up and down between sitting and standing across the course of the working day. And it just means that the laptop is right up at your eye level, and you're not having to kind of hunch down and kind of chin on the chest position when you're trying to use the laptop in that posture. This folds down super flat as well, and it's really eco-friendly because it's just wood and metal, really lightweight, and can be easily stored as well, again, to help you to reclaim the space at the end of the day. This is generally going to be for occasional home workers. It's not something that you're going to want to be raising and lowering all day long, all week, but something that if you're using a laptop just for a short period of time during the week, maybe you just are sharing a space, maybe with your partner or your housemate, and you can only kind of sit in a little corner and you want to be able to reclaim that space at the end of the day. This is a really good option for that because it is so space saving. We move on to the next section.
Sorry, Vicky. I was just going to say one thing as well, because I know around the Deskrite 100E, when it first came out, there was a lot of excitement from my clients. It was a really a product that I think people have been waiting for, the fact of a platform desk that was electronic, but also offered the same spec as the previous one. The first question I got was that I presume that it's much more expensive than the other platform desks. But in terms of price points, how do the sort of the Deskrite 100 and 100E stack up?
It's actually really not that much different. It's really close in price actually. So if you do want that additional functionality, it's not a huge upgrade to go up to the kind of the little bit of extra cost to have that extra functionality. And it's great, as I mentioned, if you do have two screens, it is helpful to have that electric lift assistance. So that would kind of determine whether you want to go for the manual or the electronic. But in terms of upgrading cost, there isn't actually a huge difference at all, which is really great. We can offer that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Onto laptop and tablet stands. So if we go on to the next slide. The Go Eco is brand new this year for us, and it is super environmentally friendly, made with recycled materials and recyclable materials, which is fantastic. We're all kind of looking at sustainability as much as we can do now. And this is where you slot your laptop in, open it as wide as it goes, and then you can adjust the height of it to try to bring that laptop screen up as close to your eye level as possible. We want to try and mimic a monitor setup when you're working with a laptop. So you're not, again, kind of chin on your chest looking downwards. So raising up that laptop screen really helps to keep your eye level dead ahead. With this, you also get a little phone stand as well, which you can also use as a document holder. So you can pop some paperwork on the front there as well, raise that up off the desk as well, up to eye level. So it's much easier to view. It folds down to basically nothing, so really good for portability. And again, if you're working from home and you want to kind of close everything down at the end of the day, it really doesn't take up much space at all. And on to the next one, please. The Vision is a laptop and a tablet stand combined. So what we've actually found lately is the tendency is kind of shifting towards things where the keyboard is actually detachable from the screen, very similar to kind of like a Microsoft Surface. And as you can see from the image here, the laptop being popped into the stand, it's kind of relying on that rigid hinge between the screen and the keyboard to keep the screen open. And so when you're using a tablet or kind of a laptop/tablet combined, where the keyboard is detachable, it's going to be floppy and it doesn't hold itself up. So I actually have the Vision here. And what you can do is you can actually slot your tablet just into the top there. So you can detach the keyboard, use it in tablet mode, or you can actually slot your laptop into the bottom here as well. So it's a dual purpose. Great, again, if you're kind of sharing a workstation at home, one of you has a laptop, one of you has a tablet or a detachable tablet, and it folds down again to kind of pretty much nothing. It's super lightweight for if you're hybrid working and you're taking it between different locations as well. And it's got a great height range on it as well. So a lot of tablet stands, you tend to be still looking down at it quite a bit. But with that, it's bring it up to the same height as a laptop stand would bring up your laptop screen. So it's a really popular one for that kind of gearing towards more tablet style working as well. You do need to use a external keyboard and mouse with any laptop or tablet stand. You don't want to be trying to type on top of the laptop. Not a great posture for that. So with both that and with the tablet, you would need to use an external keyboard and mouse. Great, on to the next one, please. This is a great kind of halfway house between a full desk setup at home and working comfy on your sofa. I do need to point out that this person's posture is absolutely terrible while using this table. Please don't sit in this position. You would like to have it much closer to you so you're not reaching out to use that. But the idea behind the Otto table is that you've got a height adjustable section for your laptop, the top platform there. So you can bring that again up close to your eye level, and then a separate platform for your keyboard and mouse. It's really easy to move it around. So if you're working from different locations in your house, again, want a bit of a change of scenery, you can do. And it's fully height adjustable, so you can use it in a dining chair, a sofa that might be a little bit lower, or a standard office chair too. This is something that, again, would be for occasional working. We're certainly not suggesting that you work a full work week on this, but it's great if you're really cramped on space and you're just looking to improve the ergonomics as best as you can, because it's just something that is easy to kind of pop into the corner whenever you're not using it. And the height adjustment of that is really key as well for getting things at the right level for you. On to the next, please. Great, we'll come on to keyboards. And the first one here is the Accuratus. This is a split keyboard and it looks a little bit funky, but it is actually really easy to get used to. You would think it wouldn't be with the kind of the split design, but after a couple of days, you'll be really used to it, and it's so much more comfortable if you have wrist issues. As this commenter has said here, that they had rheumatoid issues and swollen and out of place fingers. It spreads out the hands and spreads out the fingers, and also a much more comfortable position for the shoulders too, because you're typing like this rather than trying to keep your arms in much closer. With this, it's great that it's got the split for the space bar as well. You often find on split keyboards that it's not a split. So with this, you can actually do that with both kind of left and right thumbs a little bit more easily. And this is a really, really popular product just for trying to be more ergonomic, even if you don't have any aches and pains. It's a really good option to try and be a little bit more kind of preventative rather than just curative as well. So a really, really popular product. It also has some different options along the top there on the F keys. So little shortcuts that you can use if you're pressing the Windows key at the same time. So you can control your music, you can press home, you can press for email, lock your computer and all of that sort of thing as well. So it's got some really handy little shortcuts on there as well. And this is available on both our home and our business website, as you can kind of note from the couple of icons there.
Vicky, I was just going to say on this one of the biggest sort of disappointment for a lot of my clients is the lack of the Microsoft Sculpt keyboard being not available. It seemed to, when that decision was made by Microsoft, cause a lot of sort of uproar in the ergonomics world. But I think it's fair to say that this is obviously has a strong liking to the Microsoft Sculpt. And just for clarity, really, this is the sort of direct replacement, and the Microsoft Sculpt, I'm right in saying, is no longer available anymore. Is that all correct?
Yeah, unfortunately, Microsoft discontinued all of their peripherals, and it was quite a sudden thing as well. So it was, finding the best replacement that we could find. And this is really, really close to that in terms of the style and also the key feel as well. It does also have a separate number pad. So that was something that you could also get with the Sculpt. So if you're missing having a number pad with alternative split keyboards, this could be a really good option because it's got that additional feature that you can get as an optional extra too. So this has been a great introduction to that, to kind of try and take the place of the Sculpt, which really was kind of a big loss, and a lot of people do really miss that one.
Thank you.
Great, on to the next one, please. So the number slide, I have this one here. This is actually my keyboard, so it's plugged in. The number slide is a compact and mini keyboard, but it still has the functionality of a number pad that you can slide out here. So if you're doing a lot of figure entry, but maybe just occasionally, and you really miss having a number pad, but you want the benefit of a mini keyboard and being able to keep your mouse in much closer when you're working, this can be really good for that. The wired version also has a couple of extra USB slots on the back, which I find really, really handy because my laptop only has a couple of them. So if you're trying to plug in a mouse and your headset and your webcam, if you've got an external webcam, it can be really tricky to actually have enough slots for everything without going down the route of having a USB hub. If you're moving between different places, so easy to forget that as well, but you're probably not going to forget your keyboard, and that's got the built-in USB slots on it, so you don't have to worry about that, which is really great. It's got lovely soft touch keys. So very similar to kind of like laptop style keys, really flat and really quiet as well, and a really comfortable typing experience on that. And it comes in this lovely kind of brushed silver as well, which is very nice. On to the next one, please. The Ultra board, I do have that as well, is very similar in kind of style, but it doesn't have as much of a gap between the keys. Now, some people do prefer to have a gap and some people don't. If you have any dexterity issues and you're maybe finding that you hit the wrong keys sometimes, having that little bit of a gap in between, similar to the number slide, can actually be really helpful, but some people don't like that. So this is a really good option to replace that so that it's a little bit closer together. It has really soft touch keys again as well. And this one also really handily has two USB slots, one on this side and one on this side as well. And they're so lightweight. I mean, all of these keyboards are super lightweight, but if you are hybrid working and you're moving between different locations, it's really easy to just slot it into your bag and it doesn't take up very much space at all. And I find that with this kind of style of keyboard, you can keep your mouse in much closer to the right. So you don't have that constant outward movement of the shoulder and the arm, which can, if you have shoulder issues or neck issues, that repetitive movement can really add to that discomfort. So keeping everything that little bit closer in can be really comfortable and help to kind of reduce those movements as well. On to the next one, please. Great, let's come on to mice. This is always a really, really popular one. I'm asked on our live chat pretty much every day, what is your best ergonomic mouse? Unfortunately, there's no real answer to that. It's all specific to you. When it comes to individuals, that's certainly what ergonomic means, is that it fits to you for your needs, your requirements, and your tasks. So in terms of the best one, there really isn't anything we can say that this is going to be the gold standard, but we've got a great range of different mice to suit lots of different issues and lots of different people. So let's have a look at a couple of those. The Mousetrapper Alpha is fantastic, again, for hybrid working because it actually has the keyboard built in as well. So it's just one whole bit of kit. Now with this, it's very similar to kind of like a laptop trackpad. But with a trackpad on a laptop, you normally plant your finger on it and drag the finger across. This is similar to kind of like a conveyor belt or a treadmill, and you plant your finger on here and then the pad underneath is actually what moves. This means you're not dragging your finger across. So if you have any finger sensitivity, that can be quite uncomfortable to do that repetitively across the course of the day. And it's a lot more ergonomic that you're actually just moving one finger across the trackpad as well. It has loads of programmable buttons as well, so you can get those to do tasks for you that may require more effort usually. So for example, copy and paste. Instead of doing the Control-C, Control-V or having to right click and copy and paste, you can set one of these buttons to do that for you. You can also set one to be a double click button if you have dexterity issues with doing the double click quick enough. You can set that to be a double click button as well. This is also both wired and wireless in the same bit of kit. So you can use it wired and it will still be charging it, or you can use it as Bluetooth as well. It's direct connect Bluetooth. So this is connected directly to the Bluetooth built into your computer. So it doesn't need a dongle, which again, I always forget. If I have to have a dongle with me as well, I'm always going to forget that. So this is really great bit of kit because you can take just this with you and you're good to go. Connect this up to your laptop or your computer, and you don't need any extra bits or any wires with it. The next one, please. The Penguin, our favorite, the Penguin. This is a Posturite product and it's been around for a goodly while now and it's super popular and with good reason. This is actually a ambidextrous vertical mouse, so you can use this with both hands. With the buttons being on the front here, you can grip it with your right or with your left. Got the scroll wheel on the front here. So with your left hand, you'd be scrolling this way, and with your right hand, you'd be scrolling this way. So to differentiate between that, you just click the little bow tie on the front, and that will change the scroll position for you. We've got lots of different sizing options on here as well, and wired and wireless to suit your preference as well. With this, you want it to fit your hand, so you're not having to grip too much. If your fingers are coming too far around the front, it's probably too small for you. If you can't reach the buttons, then it's probably going to be too large. We do have a great sizing guide on our website, or if you're not sure, you can always start a live chat with me as well, and I'll be happy to guide you through the sizing on that. But the benefit of a vertical mouse is that your hand is in what we call the handshake posture. So if you think about a standard mouse, your hand would be turned palm downwards. That crosses the two bones in your forearm over. And when you're resting on the desk, you can put a lot of pressure on that area, on what we call the carpal tunnel area as well. So this helps to reduce that pressure. And instead of the fine side-to-side movement that you would normally get with a standard mouse too, this is moving the bigger levers of the arm that are better designed basically to take that amount of workload. So we're not doing those little fine constant movements that can be really aggravating to the wrist as well. And having the option to swap it between left and right hand is super helpful too. If you're trying to reduce the workload for one side of the body, it can help to give one side of your body a break. If, for example, you've got a wrist injury that maybe flares up every now and again, and you want to be able to switch over to the left, you don't have to have two mice. You can do that super easily with this one too. On to the next one, please. The handshoe shift. Now, please don't be put off by the size of this one. They did send me the large, and I have quite small hands, but we do have a medium and a small in this as well. With this one, you put the whole hand onto the mouse, and it's completely supported. So you can see my thumb is on there, my little finger is on there too, and even the wrist. So with this, what you're doing is moving from the elbow again to try and reduce those fine movements. And it supports kind of the whole hand in a much more relaxed posture. If you look at a really, really tiny mouse, I have a little example here. When you pop your hand on this, you can see how small that is for my hand. So if I were to relax my hand, I'm not touching the buttons at all. Here, I'd be doing like a claw grip, and it's kind of constant pressure on the fingers in that claw posture. You also tend to grip with your little finger and your thumb, or they tend to hover at the side, so they're not really supported either. So with the handshoe, what we're doing is supporting the entire hand, taking the pressure off the hand and allowing it to completely relax. It has the standard left and the right click buttons and the central scroll. So even though it looks a little bit funky, it works exactly like a normal mouse. It's also semi-vertical, so not in the same way as the Penguin where it's completely vertical, but it is rotating the hand a little bit again to take the pressure off that carpal tunnel area and have a better posture in that kind of handshake posture that we discussed as well. On to the next, please. The Evoluent D. This is the most recent iteration of Evoluent's really popular vertical mouse series. With this one, it now works with Windows 11. So if you have Windows 11, that's kind of the main upgrade with this one. And it also has a bigger little finger lip compared to the previous ones, so that you're not getting any pressure on the little finger when you're using it on the desk. Great thing about this is it has further programmable buttons too. So on the thumb section, you've actually got two buttons that you can use here. We do get asked quite frequently for a mouse you can click with the thumb. There was a really popular sort of joystick mouse a little while back that sadly got discontinued that has had the functionality of just clicking with the thumb, and that hasn't really been replaced by anything very similar. But this has a quite similar hand position that you would have used kind of with that joystick mouse, and you can set these buttons to be your clicks if you want to avoid finger use entirely. So that's a really great option with that one, and you do have a programmable button on the front as well. So many different options with this, and being able to reduce the workload again by setting those buttons to do something for you, like a double click, or you can even set it to like open your email or send an email or whatever you'd like to do. So there is a software that you can download for that from Evoluent's website, and you can see the whole host of different options there up to what you can actually set those buttons to do. The vertical position, again, similar to the Penguin, is much more comfortable for the hand and the wrist. Again, the image here, the person is gripping that a little more than they really need to. You can completely relax the thumb, and that little thumb lip is really comfortable. If you do have thumb issues, and the joint between the thumb and the wrist is quite a common one to get discomfort with when you're using a standard mouse. And it comes in wired and wireless and two sizes again as well. So we're really trying to cater to as many people as possible and make sure it fits you correctly too.
Vicky, are there any particular conditions where you mentioned a lot about the vertical mouse and things? Are there any particular conditions that seem to come up in terms of requests where we think that these would be a good solution for?
Yeah, anything with RSI, carpal tunnel. A lot of people tend to get those from that kind of repetitive movement, or it might not be caused by the mouse, but certainly aggravated by the mouse, of that fine side to side movement. So having that handshake posture reduces the pressure on the carpal tunnel itself, and is also a much more natural position for the hand and the arm to be in too. So those are kind of the ones that we would get most frequently to use these. Also into the fingers as well, it's actually much easier for the tendons to move for your fingers if your hand is on the side. So if you have any finger issues, it can be really helpful for that too. Discomfort in the palm because you're not gripping something. There are different vertical mice on the market that are not as chunky as this, and you're kind of doing this a little more and kind of bringing your thumb and your fingers much closer together. So it's again kind of a grip position. With this fitting kind of the whole hand, and the same with the penguin as well, your whole hand is much more relaxed, and you tend to find that anyone with kind of palm issues finds that to be really comfortable too.
Fantastic, thank you.
Great, on to the next, please. Moving on to chairs and posture support. So if we take a look at the first one, this is our super popular Home Worker Plus. We brought this out during the pandemic to act as a sort of firework bang for your buck, basically, with all the adjustments that you would expect on a much more expensive ergonomic chair at a more entry-level price for people working from home and sorting themselves out with kit. It has so many adjustments on it, so you can tweak it specifically to what you need. You can adjust the depth of the seat, so that's going to suit both taller and shorter users, so that your legs are completely supported, but you don't feel like you're perching on the edge of the seat. A lot of people, if they're more petite and the seat is too big, you tend to perch on the very edge, and then you're coming away from the backrest of the chair. So having that seat slide, that seat depth adjustment, means that you can sit right back into the chair but be fully supported for your leg length too. You can tilt the seat separately from the backrest, which is again quite unusual for a more budget option. So you can change the tilting of the seat, but then also the back angle separately, so you can be comfortable in the hips with the seat angle, but also nice and upright with the backrest, but not feeling like you're pushed too far forward or too far backwards on that too. It's also got a lumbar support for the lower back. You can see the little bulb hanging down there. You just squeeze that to inflate air into an airbag in the backrest cushioning, and that changes that curve of that cushioning to fit into the small of your back. Everybody has a different shaped lumbar curve, so a one size fits all generally doesn't really fit most. So there you can change that and tailor that exactly to your back curvature. You can also change the height of the backrest to make sure that that lumbar support is fitted correctly for you in the lower back, and also that it supports you nice and high up on the shoulders too. This is a great bit of kit for working from home because it's also quite a small chair overall. Again, if you're looking to kind of fit that into a smaller space, it doesn't take up a huge amount of room. It's not a bulky chair. And we do also do it without armrests as well. So if you would prefer not to have those, or again, a space issue, you want to have it something a little smaller, you can also have it without the armrests as well. Great, on to the next, please. The Hog Sophie or Hug Sophie, depends how you want to say that, is a fantastic option. And we do offer this in both a mesh back and in a foam back. People do prefer kind of the mesh for the aesthetics, but you get a lumbar support with both the mesh and with the standard. And it's really adjustable as well, very similar to kind of the Home Worker Plus, but it's just kind of the next step up in kind of terms of the visuals and the aesthetics on there. But you can again change the seat depth, you can change the backrest height and the lumbar support, and the armrests slide all the way out of the way as well. As this reviewer has said, that they found that it was really good for supporting their spine because of the great lumbar support on there. So this is a great one for people wanting to have aesthetics of working from home. If you're wanting something that kind of fits in more at home without looking too much like an office chair, but having that great ergonomics built into it as well, it's really really popular one. You've also got a couple of different options on kind of sitting on this. You can see the very base there. It's got sort of ridges on the base of the chair. You can pop your feet on those as well to help to take the pressure off the legs a little bit, almost kind of like having a footrest, but just a little bit of an extra posture change for you. You can also unlock this chair to have more movement while you're seated. So if you unlock it, you can then rock forward and backward, and the chair will follow you as you move to try to build in a little bit more movement into your workday as well. We all know that when you're kind of working from home, it is easy to kind of get stuck and just sat for longer periods of time. So maybe you could go for one of our lovely sit stand options, or perhaps a chair that offers a little bit more movement too, to build a little bit more movement into your day. On to the next, please. If you are working just in maybe from home just for like 1 day a week and you don't have the space potentially for a full chair, you can try to improve what you have. It's always about just trying to improve your posture and improving the ergonomics of your setup as best you can if you can't go all the way to kind of the extremes of changing your furniture. So with the curve, this can slot onto the back of your chair. So it's great for kind of like a dining chair, or you can also use it in the car as shown here. And it is a wedge shape. So this is in the lower back, and this would be sort of in the mid back to give you that lumbar curve. Because of the shape, you can also use it upside down. And I do recommend that for quite a lot of people. If they have a chair that curves away from them in the shoulders, you do tend to find that more on kind of things that aren't an ergonomic chair, and it's more been kind of designed to look nice. It might be curving away from you in the shoulders. So you can actually put it on upside down and in the upper back to give you more support for the shoulders as well. These just slot on with the Velcro on the back, but they do require there to be something behind them. So if you have a dining chair that has a really big gap, you're not going to be able to use this style of back support just because it's going to fall straight through the back. So you need to make sure that you do have something for it to rest against. You can also just use it to a standard chair just to add a little bit of extra support to that. If you're not sure if that or any of our other supports is going to fit the style of chair that you have, you can use our website live chat and send us a picture. You can attach images to that. And myself or my colleagues will be more than happy to have a look at it for you and see what's going to work best for you. Again, there isn't a one size fits all in terms of the back supports. You might find that you don't have as deep a lumbar curve and you don't need quite as much of that curve. And sometimes if you go too far the other way, you can actually add detriment by trying to add more support. So we are more than happy to have a look at the setup that you have and what is likely to be more comfortable for you by adding some additional support. On to the next one, please. Wedges are placed onto the seat itself, and you can see that it's being used in a car here, but again, you can use this on a standard office chair too. The idea behind this is with the hips higher than the knees, you're very slightly tilting the pelvis. This helps to take the pressure off the lower back and the hips and also the buttocks. And it's a much better posture. For example, if you're driving, you tend to have the seat is tipped backwards or kind of bucket style seats. And that puts a lot of the pressure of your legs down into your lower back and into your buttocks as well, and can cause discomfort. And also rounds out your lower back as well if you bring your knees up higher than your hips. So with this, we're trying to counteract that with the wedge shape and bring those hips higher than the knees. It is a medium density foam, so it's lovely and soft, but it doesn't collapse. So when you sit on it, you're not just kind of straight back down and feeling the base of the chair. Great for if you're using a wooden dining chair, for example, and doesn't have any adjustability on the height. This is going to bring you up a little bit in terms of the height that you're sitting at, add some comfort to the seat too, and improve that overall posture by giving you that little bit of a pelvic rotation as well. And you can use this on pretty much any chair. It's a really good size, but it's not going to kind of overhang your chair, and it's going to just fit nicely onto the existing seat. On to the next, please. Oh, we're already at questions.
I think we're at question times there, Vicky. So thank you very much for that. And as I said, thank you to everyone who's been putting the questions into the Q&A box. If you have any questions, please drop them in there now, and we will look to tackle some of these questions for you. Firstly, it seems sort of the overwhelming popularity, I suppose, in terms of questions is around how we're conducting DSE assessments or risk assessments at home. So we already have had this question come into us quite frequently. So as we've put here, the short answer to this one is very much yes. But it's quite a detailed topic and detailed field to answer. So what we have done is prepared a blog article which you can access, and we will look to circulate for you around that one. But following that theme as well, the Q&As that have come in during the webinar, again, our most sort of liked or voted for question has been around whether there are any specific home-based questions that we should be covering in a risk assessment that aren't usually covered. Again, Vicky, I don't know if you have any thoughts around that one.
Yeah, so at home, you're basically trying to replicate an office setup as best as you can, but in a home environment. So there needs to be considerations for space usually. So generally speaking, a standard like office style desk is probably going to be quite large for somebody who's working from home. So there might be space considerations there. But the actual questions within the DSE assessment are pretty much exactly the same. Some things that you do need to consider over and above maybe what you would do in your office, though, is the flooring type. So in your office, you know what flooring you have. You know everybody's on the carpet tiles or on the hard floor, but people working from home are going to have different flooring types, and that's really important with the casters, the wheels type that you choose for the chair. If you have carpet casters on a hard floor, they are designed to have less friction so that they move easily on the carpet. If you do that on a hard floor, you're going to be zipping about all over the place, and that can be quite dangerous. So you do need to make sure you've got the right flooring type wheels. So that's certainly one big consideration if you're working from home, is always to check that within the DSE assessment. Also footwear. So a lot of people are either barefoot or in socks, or perhaps with thin soled slippers, compared to the footwear that they would be wearing in the office. And it might only be a couple of centimeters, but in terms of getting things to the right height, a couple of centimeters makes a really big difference, particularly on kind of the knee to the floor measurement. And that can make people feel like they're sitting too high if they can't put their feet flat on the floor, even if they're in exactly the same chair. So we have that quite a lot, where companies will do the DSE assessment in the office and then they'll replicate that equipment for home. And suddenly that person can't put their feet on the floor and thinks the chair is either wrong or it's not the same chair. And it's simply just because they're wearing different footwear, or perhaps they've got a different height desk at home as well. So measurements are really key. And also perhaps they might need a footrest where they've never needed one before. And sometimes that can be a thing to kind of broach with the person is, oh, well, I've never needed a footrest before. Usually it's just it's footwear issue, and they can kind of make sure that they're feeling the chair at the right height. So just a couple of things to consider, but generally speaking, in terms of the DSE assessment itself, it's pretty much exactly the same. You're checking their equipment in the same way and recommending things to kind of suit their comfort, but just their space as well.
And another question around home worker safety has been around the HSE regs on risk assessing for home worker safety. So again, I believe this is covered in the article that we previously mentioned. Was there anything, Vicky, that you wanted to add to that question, or again, has that been covered off previously or in the article?
Yeah, the article's really good for that. It kind of covers everything because it is a little bit of a grey area in kind of what your duty of care is in terms of your home workers. So definitely recommend you check out that article because it's got some great links in there as well, for more information and kind of more specifics to different working locations as well. So really good to check that out, and I think it will answer most people's questions around that.
Great. So moving on, another question that's been voted for here is around sciatica, and if there's things that would be recommended for staff who suffer with sciatica, which we can certainly come on and talk about. I just wanted to briefly mention again, when we talk about a term like sciatica, it is a sort of all-encompassing term for perhaps a multiple conditions that could cause. Sciatica is very much just an irritation of the sciatic nerve. So it would always be sort of, it's again, probably not going to be a one size fits all solution. We want to be finding out actually what is irritating that person's sciatica. As I said, could be multiple things. But are there some general tips and things that we might be looking for if we were dealing with somebody who's stated that they're suffering with sciatica, Vicky?
Yeah, definitely. The first thing to check is the height that they're sitting at. A lot of the times, if they're sitting too low and the knees are above the height of the hips, as we mentioned, that can put a lot more pressure onto the sciatic nerve. You tend to get that a lot with people who are taller because the desk is maybe not the right height for them. So they're lowering the chair so they can fit their legs underneath the desk. But what they really need is for the desk to be raised up and to be sitting higher in the chair. Um, Generally, you want as much lumbar support as you can get as well. So they may be suffering from the fact that there isn't any adjustability on the lumbar on their chair. So they may need something that is adjustable, or if it's a short-term solution, something like the external supports that we mentioned. Also with the wedge shape, that's bringing the hips above the height of the knees to take the pressure off the sciatic nerve as well. So it would be kind of looking at them in their environment rather than there being a one size fits all for everybody. As you mentioned, it's going to be what is the trigger for that? What's actually causing the problem? And it might also be a conversation about what's happening outside of work as well. Are they getting loads of back pain because they're doing lots of weightlifting in the gym and potentially they're not doing that in the right posture, for example? So sometimes you need to kind of look around the issue as well. And, are we just trying to treat the symptoms of it by improving their posture? But maybe there's something else underlying as well. So not a one size fits all question on that one, but definitely what we'd be checking primarily is the height of everything and the amount of adjustability in the chair. Does it actually suit the person in terms of their size and also the amount of support that they need in the lower back?
Yep. And just things, I suppose, potentially things like sit stand might be something that we would consider with that person if they find that movement is helpful. Sometimes the sit stand platforms can be helpful for that as well.
Absolutely.
And then sort of moving on to a next question that has been popular is around, do Posturite sell reconditioned and refurbished equipment?
We at the moment do not, but we are going to be hopefully doing that in terms of a sustainability perspective. That will be an eBay shop that we'll be using for that. What we're going to do hopefully is be able to recondition the chairs and make any repairs that are needed on chairs that are returned. Potentially somebody might have, just ordered too many chairs, but then that's technically a secondhand chair, even if it's not been used. So there will be different entry points as well as to, is it reconditioned? Is it just not really been used? So that is something that we are looking at doing from a sustainability perspective, so that we can kind of cut down on the waste of chairs, and also a great thing for our clients as well, to be able to purchase those if they want to. That is going to be geared just to the general public and people buying things for themselves. That's not something that we would be looking at businesses doing that, because you'll only be able to obviously pay by card on eBay rather than purchase orders and that sort of thing. So from a sustainability perspective, we are certainly looking into that, and keep an eye out for that.
Fantastic. Somebody else has asked here, Craig's asked whether they can assume the prices for products are on our website, and is it possible to arrange free trials? I don't know if you wanted to cover that one, Vicky.
Yes, so we offer a 30-day sale and return based trial for all of our peripherals. That is a free trial. The only thing that you have to pay is the cost of the return postage. We find that being able to use something in situ kind of for that 30 days gives you a really good option of trying it out and making sure if it's right for you. Particularly if it's a new keyboard, new mouse, it might be a little bit of an accommodation period to actually see, is that comfortable? So rather than just using it for a short period of time in a showroom, you can actually have that delivered to you, try it out and see how you get on. You do need to keep all of the packaging and it needs to be returned in a saleable condition, but you can just drop us a message and say that you want to return it, and absolutely that's totally fine to do. In terms of our chairs, we do have a sale and return trial basis on our most popular and our stocked specifications. But if the chair is bespoke made or it has any features that have been made bespoke for you, unfortunately, that isn't a returnable option. So if that is something that you perhaps need, I would certainly recommend speaking to us on our live chat or having one of our great DSE assessments to make sure that that item is correct for you, or perhaps trying something that is a returnable option in the first instance, just to have that option of being able to return it if it's not right for you.
Thank you. And Trevor's asked here about answering when risk assessing the scissor type mechanism, lifting mechanisms in things like the desk right or op loft, and really around finger trap hazards, with the fingers getting trapped in the mechanism. Would we have any answers of how we can help Trevor there around how that would be answered?
So where the triggers are, you can't actually trap your fingers underneath. So the triggers on the desk right 100 and on the Oploft, if you are raising and lowering it, it doesn't actually touch the base at all. So you wouldn't be able to actually trap your fingers on there. It does also have that lift assistance, as we mentioned. So when you're raising and lowering it, it doesn't just drop straight down. It does have that help to kind of raise and lower it. So it's not something where you're having to take the full weight of it. So that really helps to reduce kind of any danger of it just, sort of falling as well. So they're super sturdy, super safe to use. Obviously just be mindful of it, and it's kind of personal responsibility in some instances of that, but it is really hard to kind of trap yourself in there because it does have a gap there so that it isn't really possible to trap your fingers in there.
Brilliant, thank you. The next one that came in was simply saying, does it come left-handed too? I remember this one coming in. I think this was regarding the number slide keyboard, and whether that one comes left-handed. As a left-hander myself, I suppose I feel compelled to ask that question. But Vicky, did you want to answer that one?
It doesn't, unfortunately, but what I would suggest with that is if you're wanting something similar to where you can kind of put the number pad away, is get something like our Ultra board, which I did have here. So this has a number pad option as a separate item, and then you can obviously place it either on the left or the right, depending on what you prefer, and then you can put that out of the way when you're not using it. So very similar idea. It doesn't just kind of slide in and out as it does with the number slide, but it does have that option of putting it on your left-hand side if you need it to.
Fantastic. And then Sally's asked here that she recently had somebody whose hand was in a cast and they could use their fingers but couldn't use their thumbs. So any suggestions of a mouse that could work for somebody in that situation? So essentially somebody who's in a cast on their arm and wrist.
It would depend if it is a fixing cast. So for example, if you're using those wrist supports, sometimes they have the bar, so you can't actually like turn your hand palm downwards, and it's quite restrictive in the movement. If it's a full cast and therefore they can't turn their hand palm down as well, you could look at something like a vertical mouse. So that's that kind of hand position that's probably going to be what they're fixed into, and that would just be finger usage. You don't have to use the programmable buttons on here for the thumb, so it would also support the thumb as well. It would depend kind of what style of cast it is. If they aren't restricted in the movement and you just want them to just use the fingers, something like this where it's just one finger movement, you could absolutely do that. Or you can use this ambidextrously as well because it's centralized. So if it's just, you know, one hand is in the cast, temporarily they could use the other finger, and it's quite intuitive to do that. For moving the mouse, and then you can click the buttons here with either hand as well. So something like this, or a roller mouse, which again is a centralized mouse that you pop in front of your existing keyboard, could be an option for that as well. But it would very much depend on kind of how their wrist is fixed within the cast and if there's any movement available. But certainly you can avoid thumb use with pretty much all of these mice.
Perfect. Thank you very much. A common question that we get asked, this is a good one, is the recommended standing time when you're at a sit-stand workstation. What's your view on that one, Vicky?
Generally, out of every hour, we say no more than about 40 minutes of standing, and ideally not 40 minutes in one go. So if you've got, you know, kind of the option of setting a timer, or maybe just if you're on calls standing, or building it into your day in that way so you're up and down quite a lot, that's certainly what we recommend. Is, you know, the best posture is the next posture, right? The more you're moving around, the better. So ideally no more than about 40 minutes out of every hour, and generally about kind of 20 to 30 minutes in one go, as long as you are comfortable with that. There are options for helping you to stand potentially for a little longer, such as anti-fatigue mats that you can place underneath your desk when you're standing, which helps to increase the foot and the leg comfort when you're standing. But ideally, you just want to stand until you feel like you want to sit, and don't be forcing yourself to stand for longer periods of time. Taking those seated breaks is really important, and it's about varying your posture. If you're standing all day, that's just as bad as if you're sitting all day. So having the variety between the two is really important, and just being mindful of how long you've been sitting for. And yeah, around about kind of 20 to 30 minutes is usually about right.
Brilliant. Thank you. And how often should a DSE risk assessment be carried out for hybrid working?
Usually companies are on kind of a 2-year rotation where they would tend to revisit that every couple of years, unless there's been a big change. So if somebody has moved desks, moved house, for example, that's going to be a really big one. You would want to revisit that. So they can be done more frequently. Maybe, you know, a change in life event, potentially somebody's had an accident or has developed an injury, that would be kind of flagged up then, that they would need to have a further assessment with that. But in terms of the general DSE regulations ones, they're usually on a 1 to 2 year cycle, and it's only if something has changed that you would need to do that more frequently.
Great, thank you. Next question coming here from Karen, who asked about the cardboard model sort of converters to take a normal desk to a standing desk. Is it possible to source those? And again, these are things that I've sort of seen in the market, but again, Vicky, I don't know your sort of views, update on those.
In terms of converting your existing whole desk into a sit stand?
Yes, I believe so. Is
Yeah.
it possible to yes? So yeah, like a cardboard platform desk, I think we're talking about here.
Yeah, we can sell the frames for our height adjustable desks on their own. So if you want to reuse your existing desktop, then you absolutely can do that. On our website, the Lavado desk is fantastic for that, and we do have the frame only on the website. With that, you literally just fold out the legs. It doesn't really need any assembly at all, and you can use the clamps to reuse your own desktop. So if you're looking to convert your current workstation, you can do that. Or if you just want to have a sit stand set up in what you've already got, then our sit stand platforms are great for that without needing to change any of your furniture.
Again, Megan's asked about catalogs with DSE solutions. Again, I think the website is really where our products are available from. So it's just a reminder with our website that we have the sort of two sections as well. We have effectively the home and the business section. So if you are buying for a business, that's where we would tend to navigate people to the business side of the website. The home side is very much for the personal consumer buying for their home. But you will find our products on there. What I would always and typically say to clients is if there's particular products that you can't see on there, it might well be that we can provide those products for you, being independent ergonomic suppliers. So please do feel always free to reach out to whether it's your account manager or Vicky and her team on the DSE Advice via live chat. They will be able to help discuss any particular product, but you should be able to find all of our products on the website. I don't know if there was anything you wanted to add there, Vicky.
Yeah, I mean, we are adding new products all the time. So if it was a case of a catalog, in 6 months' time, you wouldn't have all the products that we have. And, things are kind of constantly changing and kind of evolving in the ergonomics world as well, with new inventions coming out. So having it on the website means we can make changes very quickly, obviously. And it's kind of not an exhaustive list of everything that we have, but it is our most popular ranges. And we put anything new on there also. But as you mentioned, John, if there's something that's a little out of the box, we can probably source it, or it's something that we do have, but just if we put everything on the website, it would probably be impossible to find what you're after. So please do use us as like a search tool if you want to. We'll be more than happy to help you find what you're after, or we can source it most likely if it's not something that's on our website.
And again, this next question, Vicky, might be one for our purchasing team to advise, because I know this is ever changing. But the question is around the shortage of the VeriDesk Pro Plus, and the fact that that's been going on for a little while now. Do you think that the wait times will get better? Are you fully aware of the latest with VeriDesk, or can we provide any updates at this stage on that one?
Unfortunately, the issues have been at sort of VeriDesk's end with raw materials. So unfortunately, we haven't had any control over that. I know they're certainly doing their best to be able to meet the demand for that, but it has unfortunately been kind of put back a few times. At the moment, our current estimate is into October, but we do have some great alternatives if you need something in the meantime. Please do come onto our live chat and we'll be happy to assist you with an alternative. For example, the desk rights are a really great option if you're struggling with that being out of stock. But certainly they are coming back. I know a lot of people have kind of been worried about, are they being discontinued? But no, they are coming back. It's just unfortunately been out of our hands, and it's a supplier end issue. But hopefully they will be back soon.
Thank you. There was a question around our laptop tablet sizes I recommended with these. I think this question came in when we were talking about the laptop stands. So with the laptop stands, are there particular laptop and tablet sizes that people need to be aware of?
Yeah, so each one is going to suit a different size of laptop, and that's usually in the description on the website. But again, if you're not sure about what you need, then please do ask us on the live chat. We'll be more than happy to help you with that. But normally, in terms of the sizing, it's also a weight issue. So it take the weight of your laptop if you have a much bigger laptop? Is it going to be, if you've gone too big on the laptop, is it then too top heavy? And that kind of laptop stand can't take that weight. But we have laptop stands to pretty much suit every type of laptop. So it's going to depend on how portable you need it to be, and therefore the sizing and how much it folds down, as well as how high you need it to be. So a smaller laptop screen is going to need raising more for it to be at a good level for your eye line. So there's a lot of different things to consider as well as laptop sizing, and we'll be more than happy to help you pick the right one for you.
Fantastic. The next question came in from Patricia. Really good question here around, do we supply office chairs with glides instead of wheels, which was requested by a wheelchair user who likes to transfer to the office chair whilst in the office. So if anybody's not aware of glides, they are sort of fixed feet, if you like, at the base of a chair rather than the wheel type casters. So I think it's probably a good question to discuss glides and also the variety of options around casters, and perhaps any other product that might be beneficial for somebody who's a wheelchair user transferring from the office chair into the wheelchair. So did you have any thoughts around that, Vicky?
Yeah, so glides, they are basically, they will hold the chair stationary until you physically move it. So they are like little rotating feet. So you can still move the chair. It's not like you're going to have to lift the chair to be able to move it around. It just holds it a lot more stationary. So for transfer, for example, a wheelchair user or perhaps somebody on crutches needs something a little bit more stable for getting in and out of the chair, that does hold the chair in that position. The difficulty then is you're probably going to be quite far away from the desk as you get into it, and you can't kind of hutch yourself in close from there when you're on the glides. So it is, you have to get it in the right place before you get into the chair. We do have options where you can actually lock and unlock the wheels rather than it being the glides all the time. Generally speaking, glides are normally used for if you're working at height. So on a draftsman style chair, they're kind of more popular for that rather than on a standard style office chair, but we can certainly provide them. But you could look into something like a movement lock where you can actually lock and unlock the wheels as needed. So lock it when you're transferring into it, and then you can unlock it to have the movement as you need to when you're in the chair. So that would be something that you could have a chat with us about, or might be something that we need to discuss with you on an assessment for the individual. But there's certainly ways around that to make sure that they're stable and they feel safe getting in and out of the chair. Absolutely.
Great stuff. And then a question here about which mouse would be best for RSI. Again, I think similar to the point around sciatica, I think it's important to just consider the fact that RSI is quite a general term for a number of different conditions. So again, I would say it'd be very important to understand what is actually the repetitive strain injury, what is causing the problem, because the answer would be different depending on which condition it is. But again, Vicky, so it's quite a general question, but would you have any answers around which mice might be best for RSI, or perhaps some of the points that we might want to consider when treating RSI?
Yeah, definitely. You tend to find that if it's in the hand you use the mouse with, that a different mouse will certainly be more comfortable to use. It might not solve the issue for you if using the mouse is not the problem, but it can certainly be more comfortable. So something like the vertical mouse, as we mentioned, for that kind of carpal tunnel RSI, it's keeping that in a nice neutral posture and you're not rotating the hand palm downwards. But if you're finding that it's in both hands, sometimes you need to have a look further potentially at keyboards rather than mice as well. So we need to have a look at the whole environment and have a chat with the person about what their tasks are. Is the repetitive strain actually in their finger and it's because they're scrolling constantly? Can we have a look at a way of reducing the amount that they scroll? Is it kind of task specific? Are they finding that there's one task that's really uncomfortable and maybe a different style of mouse will suit that? Someone who's using CAD is probably not going to want to use a little finger trackpad that's not very precise. So it's very specific to the individual and what's kind of causing their issue. And in our assessments, they are super detailed with regards to that to try and get to what probably the root cause is, if it is indeed caused by your equipment, and how we can help with that best. But certainly a good thing to try initially if you're finding it is in your mouse hand would be a vertical style mouse, just for that better overall hand posture, and then kind of take it from there.
Great. Yeah, I think we just got a couple of minutes left with a couple of questions, so we'll try and quickly get through these for you. But also one question I did see linking into the last question was whether the mouse trapper would be a good mouse for RSI. Again, I think Vicky mentioned earlier some of the benefits of the mouse trapper can be that it can be used in an ambidextrous manner. Again, so if you are suffering with perhaps one hand, the use of ambidextrous mice can be really helpful as well to alleviate the amount of use that you're putting through one side. So again, yes, it could be, but it's important to understand what is irritating and what the actual specifics around the RSI is. And then a question here about suggestions for someone with a recent right index finger amputation.
I would probably be looking at a left-handed mouse if possible. It is quite intuitive to swap to left-handed. You might kind of feel it's a bit weird at first, but because you've already kind of got the brain pathways of how to use a mouse, it is actually a lot easier to swap than you would think it would be. So certainly with that kind of mouse use, that would probably be the best solution for that. In terms of typing, if they are able to comfortably use their fingers, and obviously not using kind of the forefinger for that, a standard mouse could still be a standard keyboard, sorry, could still be used. But if they're finding that is a tricky thing for them to do, you might want to look into potentially voice software so they speak rather than type. You can also test that out using built-in Microsoft dictation tools, which are pretty good now. You get them in both Outlook and in Word, so they could try that to try and cut down on some of the typing if they're finding that that is uncomfortable. But it would really be, again, kind of their task specific, like what tasks are they now finding difficult because of the amputation, and how can we look at resolving that? So rather than a one size fits all, it's going to be very specific to that person and what they're struggling with now and how we can help them with those specific symptoms.
That's great. No, I fully agree. I think it opens up a bigger question around, because of the indexing that we think of clicking. And again, people think, if they can't click, what can they do? And there are multiple options around using other parts and hands in order to achieve the clicks or the typing. So, and then really briefly, just to conclude, because I think we're right on 11 o'clock now. So thank you everybody for your time. Mark had asked about how would they take advantage of a virtual assessment. Well, I think on that one, it's the information can all be found on our website. So assessments can be booked or requested for our assessments on the website. But again, if you have any questions, to sort of reiterate, Vicky and her team will be on hand via our live chat to be able to answer any of those questions. So feel free to check out our website, and we can happily provide you with a virtual assessment. And in which case, I think that covers all of our questions, all of the content that we wanted to cover today. So thank you everybody for your time. We really appreciate it. We'll be circulating any information post-webinar shortly, but also just to remind you that the next webinar in our series is coming up on the 24th of September, and this will be covering the topic of dyslexia. So thank you, Vicky, for your time. Thank you for everybody for tuning in, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thank you, everybody.